loves, welcome back to TigeraGitana. So today we are going to do a patron voted video, okay, because you guys know they pick some really great topics pretty regularly, and the topic that they picked for this week is how to study astrology. So I'm going to be very biased in this video, so I'm not going to say how like everybody else studies astrology. I'm going to tell you guys how I personally study astrology, and why it works for me in the way that it does. So this is going to be kind of, as far as like, to keep it simple, 3 specific ways to study astrology, and where to kind of start. And the first place that I personally like to give advice into starting with is the signs and the planets. And I know that a lot of people kind of jump into trying to understand how to read a chart right away, but I think that it's important for you to know how to, like, how the signs and the planets are going to work when they fall into the chart. Think of it like as a board game. Okay, so you want to understand what does what in the piece. Okay, where the pieces lands is important. Obviously we're going to get there. That's the chart, that's the board game aspect, but we need to understand what each piece does as well, if there are any perks in some pieces versus others, and understanding really what they do, what abilities they have, what powers they have. So for me, I like to study the planets and the signs at the same time, because the planets rule specific signs. So my first tip is actually studying the planets and their signs, their respective signs, because when you take a moment to actually study each one, going through the whole journey of Aries as he moves through each astrological sign and goes through that journey, you end up learning a lot, not only about the signs, but about people. Okay, and I don't want you, when you are also studying the signs, I don't want you to disconnect the fact that people are human. And my biggest obviously people are human, but my biggest tip into understanding the way the signs also work and the way that they manifestation is a really big one when it comes to signs and planets, because they have bad manifestations and they also have good manifestations. And so obviously, because things can manifest in multiple ways within one rulership, and what I mean by that is that if a sign has a specific rulership, like for example, Pisces, I'll use Pisces as an example, that's a really good one. Pisces rules illusions, okay? It rules the subconscious mind, it rules you know, the altered state, okay? It rules creativity, dreams, all of that. And so when I'm telling you, okay, that's what it rules, I want you to actually dive in deeper and tell me, okay, so if Pisces rules that, how can it be manifested in a positive way, and how can it be manifested in a good way? Because you have to understand that when it comes to, again, astrology and humans, there are positive manifestations and negative manifestations, manifestations that affect you, that can affect you, and that you can visibly see in somebody else of how they behave. And really, astrology to me is a study of people, and this is why I kind of love it so much, and why it's ruled by Aquarius first and foremost, which is why they have such a heavy focus on other people. And during, you know, while studying and navigating astrology, is all about understanding and seeing how the behavior takes place in other people. So one of the things I used to do all the time when I was younger was ask what somebody's signs was, okay? And obviously when I was younger, I wasn't just like, okay, when were you born, and trying to just do your whole birth chart right away. There was for me, it was just more about understanding their sun sign, which your sun sign is your ego. It's your willpower, it's your inner child. So a lot of people actually, even though they feel like they don't connect to their sun sign, because of course, you know, you have a birth chart, you are more than just one sign. You are a collection of energy. Because a lot of people always say that, I still like to study what they do when they say they're one sun sign. So if you're like a Scorpio, I like to see how you use your Scorpio energy. If you are like an Aquarius, I like to see how you use your Aquarian energy. If you're a Pisces, I like to see how you move through Piscean energy. And what you will find is that there are different manifestations of the same thing that they rule. So even though Pisces rules that subconscious state, and rules that, you know, dreamy world, the illusions, that can be very beautiful, that can be artwork, that can be music, that can be creativity. It can also be drugs. It can also be, you know, that again, altered states of minds. It can be very psychological, and Pisces in the 12th house is a very mental house. If that house is aspected in a bad way, it can mean, you know, mental issues in a chart, in someone's chart. It can mean a lot in someone's behavior. So you want to pay attention to both positives and negatives of the same energy. So if you use one word, like for Venus, for example, and you say love, pleasure, money. Okay, but how can Venus be badly aspected? How can her energy be negative? You can have obsession, you can have lust, you can have manipulation, you can find pleasure in torture, you can find pleasure in pain or giving others pain. So you have to understand and study the actual components of the rulership, not just say positivity, astrology is all no, because there are obviously negative ways that things can be aspected, and ways that, you know, it can show you like, hey, this is not sunshine and rainbows. This is how this energy is being manipulated in this way. This is how it's being misused. This is how it's imbalanced in many ways. And these are terms that I use personally when I'm giving out natal charts, because I like to explain to people like, okay, this is what could happen if you misuse it. This is what's going to look like. If you don't misuse it, this is what's going to look like. This is the gifts that come from using that energy properly. And this is how you can be blocked from misusing that energy. So you understanding the signs, what they rule, and how it can be both positive and negative is a big thing for me, specifically in studying astrology, because then you're not trying to sugarcoat stuff. And I feel like one of the easiest ways to understand what I'm trying to say is if you happen to have taught yourself how to read tarot, you will have figured out right away that tarot does not give a flying crap about your opinion, about your, you know, feelings, about anything. Like tarot's just gonna read you to the filth. Okay, so it's the same thing with astrology. While there are ways to kind of interpret things, you do not want to always interpret things in a positive way, especially if it's not aspected in a positive way. You can't just make something not good just because you don't want it to be bad. You have to make sure that you're going into it understanding that there's a possibility for everything to show up, and that every kind of critical point can be an opportunity for growth, can be an opportunity for change, evolution, or can be a real trigger for us to take our lives more seriously. Because if you think about it, if you actually sit down and think about it before you look at an astrology chart, if you had like the most perfect chart in the world, what is the point of having a completely perfect chart, a completely perfect life, like a completely no issues, nothing? It's just that doesn't exist in astrology, because the planets are constantly moving, they're aspected in a certain way, and they go to fight, they fight with each other all the time. They have squares, they have, you know, they have like conjunctions, they have times where they get along, they have times where they're fighting, and so you cannot expect to go into a chart first and foremost and say, oh, everything is perfect, nothing is wrong, and it's just not a reality. So make sure you're not trying to do the same thing to the signs. You're not just thinking that, you know, Mars is just about passion and nothing bad's gonna happen with Mars or your Mars sign and how that's used. I always, when I'm giving natal charts specifically, I make sure I communicate how Mars can be used and misused, and what that actually how that can manifest in your life, because Mars is how you go to war, okay? And, you know, that can seem very harsh. to when you're thinking about it, it's like how you go to war, how you fight. When you get mad, that's your Mars sign. Okay, that is straight up like my Mars sign is Sagittarius. So I go from 0 to 100 when I'm mad. Okay, and that's my Mars energy. It's not my Sun and Capricorn energy. That's my Mars energy. And so I need to understand how to use my Mars energy both in a good way, in a way that's productive to me, that's connected to my passion and my drive and my dreams and what my goals are. And I also need to to understand as a person that when I'm angry, when I have my human moments, how it manifests in a maybe more toxic way, in a more negative way. So that way I have that awareness and that control in order to be able to change it. It's all about having awareness of how the signs and the planets both have positive and negative implications, and how they can be misused, and when they are in misuse, how they manifest, and learning how to find that and communicate that when you're doing somebody's chart or when you're reading your own chart, really saying, okay, well, you know what, this is being aspected this way. I have Mars in, I don't know, and I have Mars in Aries in retrograde. That's what my chart looks like. How does that manifest in my life? How does that behavior show up in my life? How do I navigate that energy? You really have to really sit down with yourself and admit that not everything is going to be super positive, super glossy, super like a thing experience. Not everybody has the same life. Not everybody. Hey, Pink, don't be trying to jump off the bed. Sorry, Pink was trying to jump off the bed. What's wrong with you? Don't be trying to jump off the bed. No. Okay. Understanding that not everybody has the same life. Not everybody have the same opportunities. Some people are born into certain things, and they have certain benefits. And you can see that in the chart itself. You can see when people have gifts in their chart, as well. So it's important to look at where the planets are, where the signs are. Specifically for me, I would highlight where if there are any falls or any exaltations within the birth chart as well, because it's important to note when the planets are really well aspected, and when, you know, if they're stationed in the sign that they're supposed to be in, or the sign that they rule. Those are good placements as well to see, okay, well, it's working with that specific energy. So if your Venus is in Taurus and Venus actually rules Taurus, obviously you feel your Venusian energy is very much more in alignment, but you do still need to check how it's aspected, how it's being used within your chart through your aspects, and also your transits, to see how every single day from when you were born, how that energy has been triggered into action to some capacity. So I 1000% would say study the signs and the planets first before you dive into the chart, because you want to have some sort of understanding of how all of these pieces play together when you put them in that chart, and then you start analyzing how they all interconnect. You want to have some awareness of how the signs and the planets are within their own sign, and then understanding the falls and their exaltations, I can't talk today, how they are, and what doesn't work, where the opportunities are, why certain things would be not so great to have or not so great placement to have, why certain things would be a really great placement to have, and how that can benefit you or create a little bit of chaos or create opportunities for healing or growth. And then the second point will be going in and actually studying in chart form and understanding how everything's relating to each other, how everything is connecting, how everything is being aspected, and what's going on with like the North Node. Sorry, Luna she wants to be with Babe right now, and Babe's in the kitchen cooking, so this is what's happening. Sorry about that. So yeah, you want to, the second one is study the chart. Study specifically, first and foremost, I would recommend studying your own chart first, because your own chart and you diving into yourself is a way better I feel like discovery when you feel in alignment to what you're seeing. You're like, oh my God, that's why. Oh my God, oh my God. Like you're actually able to sit down and say, oh my God, no wonder. Oh my God. It's like, it's almost like you don't feel lost or feel like, oh my God, why am I like this? You feel like heard. You feel heard by the universe. You feel heard by the divine. When you look at your chart and you're like, oh my God, that explains like everything. It explains everything. So taking the time to then study the chart, your specific chart, is very important when you're learning or teaching yourself how to practice and use astrology on a day-to-day. And I feel like when you're looking at your chart, you want to make sure that you are then going into the way things are aspected, the conjunctions, the trines, the just pretty much everything. No, Pink, sorry, she keeps trying to jump off the bed. Pink, relax. She's so sassy today. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. I don't want her to jump off the bed because the bed is really tall. She's a tiny dog. She's a tiny dog. Okay, thanks, babe. Sorry, guys. So, I can't remember what I was saying, but I feel like when it comes to the chart and when it comes to understanding the way the planets are relating to each other and why it's happening, and then when you actually start eventually looking at like the transits and everything, which would be the my third tip as far as how in what order to kind of study things. I would say study your own chart first, because it is that snapshot of your life when you were born. This is your soul's journey. This is your map. This is the key to your life. This is the tool that you're going to need to navigate everything that's going on in your life. So you want to make sure you're studying that snapshot, that you're going through every single thing. You understand why everything is everywhere, what benefits you. You should be writing down what your gifts are, what benefits you, where are areas of opportunity. These are things that are also covered when I do natal chart readings, so you guys are understanding of, okay, this is also why I do shadow astrology readings, so you guys can understand like where there are opportunities, where are there pitfalls, where are there things that you might need to work on and like have, you know, or where you're gonna get really challenged in life and have some issues or some, you know, opportunities, and where the planets are really gonna push you to evolve, because again, not every chart is perfect. There's no such thing as a super perfect, like perfect life chart. You can show me like a rich person's chart. You can show me anybody's chart. There's a bunch of stuff in there that they're still working through themselves. So I don't want you guys to think about, you know, oh, it has to be perfect, or this is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in order. Okay, it is a snapshot of the day, of the time where you were born. Is a snapshot. So you want to study it as is you want to take it as you're looking at a piece of history. Okay, you're like an archaeologist, and you're just going in and studying everything so you can understand what you are looking at. Okay, so you want to go through every single thing in that chart and understand. When you then understand how to read your own chart, not the transits, the chart, then I recommend studying the transits and how to read the transits. So the transits are looking at your natal chart and how it's being aspected with today, like right now, what's happening right now, or whenever you want to, I guess, whatever time you want to actually look at, because you can look at transits for a year from now, months from now. So, but just taking a moment to really study how your natal chart is then relating and moving through right now or the future, you can then study and see what the relationship is to you, who you are, as you navigate the times. That's the whole point of the transits. You're looking at how your chart, all your aspects are transiting through this time, and then how the times are impacting you, how each planet is impacting you now, like where the planets are right now. If you're having any type of like return, whether it's a Venus return, Jupiter returning, or Saturn returning, all of those, understanding what that means, how that return is affecting you, what benefits you have from them, how it's hindering you, understanding the retrogrades and which house they're falling in. I didn't mention this, but when you're studying the chart, you definitely have to study the houses. I think I was trying to say that, but I keep getting interrupted by my babies. My babies keep making noise. Sorry. But understanding the charts, understanding how everything is moving through the houses, which houses are active, what should you be focusing on. The big one for me is understanding how the planets are navigating through your houses, because when you know that you have a planet that's literally inside a specific house, and that's what the focus is, and you're moving through life and you just find that you have a lot of activity in that house recently, and then you look at the transits and you're like, oh, that's why so much activity is happening there right now during this time. So it's a really important time it's a really important thing to pause and reflect within which houses your transits are moving through, because then if you know that, Jupiter is going to be in your third house, for example, then you're going to have a little bit of luck with your voice, because your third house is the house of communication. You're going to have a little bit of expansion there. But again, go back to what I said earlier. There could be a negative and positive, way to look at things. So maybe depending on how Jupiter is aspected in your third house, you might, say something wrong. You might, pop off. You might, say too much, reveal too much, feel exposed, because again, Jupiter's expansion. So depending on what sign you have there, you might feel a little bit exposed. You might talk too much. Your voice might get you in trouble, or you might have some luck in that space. You might end up like being able to sweet talk people, or being able to get what you want using your throat chakra really easily. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to how the planets are moving through those houses and how those houses are being activated for you. So if you're trying to focus on a relationship partner, right? And you're looking at your transits and nothing is in any of the like partnership, not even in the fifth house, and the like, I want to flirt kind of houses, and everything else is just like in the ninth house, in the 12th house, in the third house, and you literally have really nothing in like any type of love energy, and you're like, but I want a boo thing or something, then you need to understand that right now might not be the time for you to focus on that, and you should focus on where the planets are in what houses they are currently. So that way you're actually working with the energy and not against it. It's kind of like I say this a lot when I do readings for you guys and stuff, not like swimming against the current, but going with the wave. It's all about that. When you're looking at your transits, you can actually see what you're supposed to be working on, where the energies are highlighted, where you can have some good opportunities, where you can have, when you're kind of like blocked off and it's just like not budging in certain spaces. That way you can actually benefit from using the energy properly. Because again, like I said earlier, your natal chart is your map. If you use your map correctly with your transits, and it says, hey, right now you're going to be in this place, why are you trying to rush and go be in that place? It's not time yet. What you actually can do is pause and look at the transits for the future and see when you're going to the planets are going to be in a good place for you to work with that love energy. So that's an example of how to really use your transits to benefit a specific intention that you want. And you can do this for pretty much anything. If you want to work on yourself spiritually, your spiritual development, then you want to make sure that you're looking at how your houses are being aspected for that as well. If you want promotion or a new job or something like that, or if you want to start your own company, you want to see how your 10th house is aspected, how your second house is aspected, like what's going on in those spaces, and also your 6th house, because your 6th house is the house of serving others. So really how you're bringing things to the table and stuff. If you want to focus on your healing, you want to look at your 6th house. You want to see how that's being aspected and what steps you need to do to bring some healing and some change to that. So I hope that that makes sense. So those are like my 3 tips on how to study astrology in a way that is not going to overwhelm you or confuse you. And I know that I have a lot of conversations with people like, yo, at my job. I have a ton, like everybody knows me as an astrologer in my job, so everybody comes up to me and asks me like a ton of questions. It's quite fun. It passes the time here and there. But I get a lot of questions on how I understand astrology, how I practice it, why I do it the way I do it. And I know that some people have a different way of doing things. I personally, and while there are ways of, I feel like there are ways to overwhelm yourself with studying astrology, because there's so much terminology, there's so much to learn, there's so much different charts that you can do, the synergy charts. Like, it's just it's a lot. It's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of things that ultimately you end up adding to your arsenal. And that's really the way you should see it. Everything you learn in addition to what you're already studying is you're adding it to your arsenal. You're understanding something new. So a new way of doing things, of doing what you've been doing, and adding that to make your experience a lot easier, and your understanding a lot easier. I feel like this is a really good topic to talk about, because we're in Sagittarius season now, and Sagittarius is very studious. So I feel like really, you know, happy that the Patreons like chose this as the video for the week, because, you know, they're usually on the money about it. So there's that. But I do feel like ultimately, don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Astrology is going to have a huge role within the next couple of years, because Aquarian energy and Aquarius rules astrology. Is going to have it's going to be in our faces a lot the next couple of years, because Jupiter is going to move into Aquarius and Saturn is moving into Aquarius. So you do have a heavier hand of technology, Aquarian energy, and really looking and studying ourselves. And so I do think that everybody should, you know, take a deeper hand in studying themselves. So these are my 3 tips on how to study astrology in a way that's beneficial and kind of a good way to attempt to learn everything without getting overwhelmed. So I hope that was helpful. Definitely, if you would like to see more videos like this, leave me a comment below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all to my new subscribers, because we've been growing so fast here on the channel. I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, because we're always learning and growing over there, and they did pick this week's video. So I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.